Okay, so the reason why I'm making a video about studying, well, is because, well, how do I put this? I want to see what works with my demographic, okay? I want to see what I can speak about freely and what people nowadays find interesting. So I figured if I start making a bunch of random videos, start corroborating them, see what's working best, then I should be able to figure out something. Anyways, let's get into this. Student nightmare. Now, the reason why you should study, not as like a student or like a college student, but also as like an adult, is because it builds a lot of good habits such as like time management and something that like is very underrated, but it builds your critical thinking, which critical thinking is something that a lot of people have but don't use to their fullest potential. And it's really important like you critically think all the time through your day-to-day life without even realizing it. And studying can help build that level of critical thinking, which in turn can help you in your day-to-day life. Now, it also builds a sense of achievement that like you're not just like wasting your time. Like you could have been watching TV, you could have been like sleeping on your couch, but no, you're doing something productive with your life. So that's something that like studying also helps. And it also grants you the sense of patience. Like studying is no without like is like it tends to be really boring and oftentimes unwanted. So start forcing yourself to come out of your shell and start studying forces builds your tolerance, which in turn like builds your patience, which can help you with your day-to-day life. Now, in order to study, you want to make sure that your studying environment is filled with as little distractions as possible, which means keeping a nice, clean, organized environment. Now, another thing that would help you like get rid of your distractions is well, your get rid of your phone. But like your phone's super easily accessible, and what I would recommend you do to get rid of it is go all the way like if you to like a basement and like leave your phone there, then go all the way upstairs. So that way you have to go all the way downstairs to study or to grab your phone, which by then it isn't worth it. Or you just give your phone to like your dad or like your brother or a sibling and tell them that like to not give you your phone back until like your required studying time, whether it be like 3 hours or like an hour. Now, another big thing I see people doing, which they shouldn't be, is not separating their work environment from their play environment. Now, this is important because your brain oftentimes associates your environment with certain activities or tasks. So, like when you go to the beach, you oftentimes associate yourself with swimming and like sand. Well, and like when you go to the park, you oftentimes like envision yourself playing. Now, when you build like a certain relationship to an activity, like playing a video game on a certain desk, your brain automatically thinks of the desk, sees the desk, and automatically thinks, "Oh, this is where I play. I should probably start like playing a video game now." But since you're studying, you don't want to do that, obviously. So, what I would recommend is have two different desks, one meant for studying and one meant for playing. That way, you have a more optimal experience and like get less distracted when studying. Now, a big part about studying is remembering what you actually studied. Now, in order to do this, I found it like most effective that to make studying as fun as possible. Now, in order to do this, what I would recommend is if you are going to study with a group, which I don't recommend, but if you are, try like holding bets with each other. Try to like see who can m- answer the most questions and who can really nail everything down. Because that way you're almost making it seem like a competition, which for some people can be really entertaining. Now, another thing you can do is make it enticing to get questions right, and like make it enticing to like recall information correctly. So what I would do is I would like every time you get a question right, or every time you do memorize something correctly, eat like a piece of candy or like take a sip of like coffee or something like that. Which what that allows you to do is that like incentivizes you to keep on studying, so that way you finish the entire snack you're eating, or like finish like whatever drink you're sipping. Now, another thing you do, which this might sound very like dumb, but like for some reason it works. Every time I'm studying and I'm listening to music and like I'm trying to memorize like an equation, I try like saying the equation or like whatever I'm memorizing in like the melody of the song almost. And during the test, I just start humming random melodies. And well, I mean, I tend to do good on those tests, surprisingly. So, I mean, if it works, it works. I mean, so yeah. Now, a way to figure out what to study is blurting. Now, how this works is you just write down everything you remembered on the top of your sheet. Like, write down every single thing. Like, if you're right, let's say you're studying like for the French Revolution, write down everything you remember about the revolution. Who Bonaparte or who Robespierre is, who Jacques was, who said let them eat cake, and what was like the relevance of that phrase. Write down everything. Then after that, go back to your like notes you took in class, or like what if like the teacher provided a studying like slideshow or something like that. Then like corroborate what those with what you wrote. And then after that, in two separate boxes, write down what you forgot and what you got wrong. Now, this is a really effective strategy in figuring out everything you're doing wrong and everything you're forgetting, obviously, right? And it's super effective to hone down in what you're really doing wrong. Now, a technique to study for long periods of time is called the Pomodoro technique. Now, how this works is you just kind of set a timer for like your total studying interval. Say like, I don't know, 30 minutes. Or not 30 minutes, 3 hours, right? And after that, set a timer for your work interval. Now, what I'd recommend you do to figure out how long you set this timer for is run tests, see how long you can go doing a certain activity you don't like, and see how long you can do that activity before inevitably you're doing something else. Now, if after you do this a couple times, you should have like a good range of how long you can work without getting distracted for. Then after that, set that as your like timer for your work intervals. Then after that, set a break timer. And what you're gonna want to do is alternate between your work intervals and your break intervals until your total studying timer is over. Now, the reason why this method is so effective is A, you don't completely drain yourself out and you're able to like persistently study for long periods of time. That's one thing. And the break also allows you to remember and like really process what you learned. So having that like ability to process, because after if you study for like 1 hour like constantly, and then after that just like take like a 3 hour break, you're not going to be able to process everything you learn. But if you study for like 30 minutes, then after that have a 5 minute break, in that 5 minute break you should be able to process everything you learned in the 30 minutes and really like understand what you just learned, which is important. Now, a big mistake I see people making is studying and test taking isn't the same. Don't use test taking strategies when you're studying, because ultimately the whole point of test taking strategies is to figure out why what's wrong is wrong. Now, this is important and this does matter, but uh, you want to study for the sake of knowing what's right is right, right? And so like uh, you don't want to like eliminate questions just because like they use inevitables. You don't want to like you don't want to like analyze things. You don't overanalyze things. You don't want to like base answers off the wording of the question unless that wording's like relevant to whatever you're studying. And you really just don't want to eliminate answers. That's like my biggest takeaway. Because if you do that, then like you're not gonna know what's right is right, and it's not gonna work out in your favor. And a big thing I see people forgetting about studying is they have multiple websites and they have multiple resources they can corroborate with. So if one resource is saying like if you're taking like a practice test and you get a question wrong, like don't just sit there and look at the right answer, figure out why that answer was correct, right? And once you figure that stuff out, you really get to you really understand what's going on and you really get a sense of what you're studying. Now yeah, that's pretty much all I have for my presentation. Yeah. Please like, subscribe. I think that's gonna help me in the algorithm. I don't know. I See ya.